What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome day today. Now, I know I haven't done some uploads in a while. There's been a lot going on. We will get into that. In fact, there's something really important in the charts that I want to show you guys. If you've been following me over on Twitter, X, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that being said, I wanted to bring you this really quick update because there are a lot of people that are still very, very in doubt about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin's price, especially with this ETFs. Now, we've gone over the ETF a lot on this channel, and if you're still not convinced that it's going to be good for the price, then I don't really think there's much I can do to convince you anymore. But if that argument does not actually get you excited, well, I have a treat for you today, because there's something that is going on right now. For example, just before we get into this clip, I want to play something for you. You know how, originally Bitcoin mining was this big, bad, terrible thing, and all the news outlets were telling you how bad Bitcoin mining is, but now all of a sudden you're seeing Texas doing it. You're seeing all these good news articles come out about how good Bitcoin is for, energy usage. Well, there is something happening right now, my friends, and this could absolutely cause the price of Bitcoin to explode beyond our wildest dreams. And I want to give a massive, massive shout out to Joshua Jake. Now, if you don't know who he is, I actually had an opportunity to meet him in person over the weekend at the Decentral event, and he absolutely blew my mind when he explained to me why the price of Bitcoin is probably not going to stop at 200, 300, 400. It could literally go to $500,000 or higher. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and I know it sounds like moon boy talk, but when you watch this clip, and I highly suggest that you guys watch this all the way to the very end, you are going to understand exactly why Bitcoin is the ultimate commodity, and anybody who doesn't have any allocation at this point is probably going to end up kicking themselves. So I'm going to drop that clip right now, and like I said, guys, make sure you stick around to the end because this is some serious alpha.
Do you want to know how Bitcoin can hit 500K? Because this next bull run is going to be completely different than what everybody's expecting. Now, first, I gotta shout out this guy, Jaxus. He has probably dropped one of the best threads I have ever seen, which is about how the big bull run for commodities is coming. Stagflation for equities and Bitcoin as digital commodity rather than a tech stock. Expressing his thoughts on how Bitcoin is going to decouple from the stock market. Now, this thread is the entire proof to this commodity bull run. The top chart is gold and the bottom chart is the S&P, and you can see it is correlated perfectly. So when the stock market is in a bull run, gold is in a bear market. When the stock market's in a bear market, gold's in a bull run. This is obviously over the last century. In here, we're gonna have gold compared to your other precious metals like copper and silver, and they all are 100% correlated, or at least near perfectly. And this is gonna be gold compared to the dollar. Now, the dollar is actually inverted here. So when it bottoms out, that actually means that the US dollar topped. And you'll notice that every time the US dollar loses value, gold goes on a bull run. When the US dollar gains value, gold is gonna go into a bear market. Again, loses value, bull run. Gains value, bear market. And he actually predicted these things literally over 2 years ago, and now he's watching his calls play out perfectly. The dollar topped out perfectly at his demand zone, and it's now looking to reverse and essentially lose value. Of course, if it breaks out of this formation to the upside, we can be seeing some significant downside to the US dollar. So why does this matter for Bitcoin, and why does this mean it's gonna go to 500K? Well, here's the Bitcoin chart compared to commodities. Now, of course, Bitcoin started in 2008 and commodities go back all the way to the 1950s in these charts. And of course, when you zoom in, Bitcoin is following commodities to a T. I mean, the correlation is near perfect. Of course, there are different market caps and sizes, so there's gonna be a little bit different fluctuations, but when you zoom out, it is overall the same exact movement. So here's why you need to watch Bitcoin. I don't care about at all any rest of the crypto market in this video. We're not talking about any of these altcoins. We're specifically talking about Bitcoin as a commodity, which it just had its 8-year anniversary for being a US commodity status from the CFTC. US regulators look at Bitcoin as a commodity because once again, it completely moves as one. So here's the alpha for Bitcoin. All these content creators that are telling you that the Bitcoin halving is going to cause the bull run, and it's used for marketing for you to purchase these assets because they're giving you a fear of missing out. The Bitcoin halving isn't the actual reason on why Bitcoin is going to pump. While in the past, everybody talks about how the Bitcoin cycle and the Bitcoin halving is going to be the reason why it continues back into a bull run, the 2021 bull run wasn't started because of the Bitcoin halving. While that did have a minor impact on the fluctuation from rewards to miners, it was because the government printed over $2 trillion and just handed that out to a bunch of consumers who then took all of their money, and you can overlay this to the Bitcoin chart. It is the exact bottom and end of the Bitcoin bull run in 2021, which tells me that consumers are going to have no money to spend on this unless something breaks in the economy and the feds are forced to print another $2 trillion. So here's the most likely scenario. a Bitcoin spot ETF is going to get approved. BlackRock is then going to utilize all of their financial advisors to promote to you to store at least some of your retirement in your 401ks, etc., and at least 1 to 2% in Bitcoin to hedge yourself against inflation. Because as the halving approaches, they're going to use the markets, and of course, I'm sure they're going to be some manipulation into pushing that price up and convincing you that you need to buy in before the halving takes place, which means you probably missed the bottom by a mile. Now, either way, that still doesn't get us to $500,000 Bitcoin. So how do we get there? The answer is carbon emissions. I've been educating you guys on my channel with this for the last year. Bitcoin mining can reduce global emissions by now up to 8%. This is coming from a new article that was released today by 2030. This can be done by converting the world's wasted methane emissions into less harmful emissions. Bitcoin is able to consume and access and scale the trillions of dollars in wasted emissions each year, which makes it far more valuable than any commodity. Because it's not only digital gold, it is digital oil as well. And it could take all of the wasted energy that it takes to produce all of these other assets and convert that into a net value. And it's not like it can just do this. It is doing this. Companies and governments are doing this. You have Middle Eastern countries investing billions into converting this energy now. Even Russia does it at Gazprom, one of the largest oil companies in the world. Exxon, ConocoPhillips, they're all doing this. And guys, we have already entered the bull run for commodities. They have bottomed out. Stocks are more or less going to be trailing sideways now for the next few years. Interest rates are going to remain paused and likely elevated for a longer period of time. Maybe inflation comes back, so we have probably 6 to 12 months before maybe there's a massive uptick in these commodities. But right now we are seeing the momentum. And if this is the case for the first time, as you saw all the correlations to Bitcoin, to silver, and to copper, Bitcoin is going to follow this commodities rally. But since it has a much smaller market cap, is a brand new industry, can access all of the excess methane emissions, is still be used as store of value as a peer-to-peer transaction, and has companies building and scaling its network, Bitcoin is going to outpace all of these other commodities by a landslide over the coming years. And if Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold over the next 10 years, which is very realistic, that is not something that is out of this world, it would be worth over 24.8x, $658,000. No other altcoin can do what Bitcoin does. And if this plays out in this manner, just because Bitcoin's sitting at 26K and you're more interested in getting something that's under $1 like XRP, the functionality and the value as a commodity far exceeds and will always far exceed anything else that is on these lists. Stop sleeping on Bitcoin. Type in Bitcoin mining into Google because the most badass thing you'll ever see is happening in these markets. For the first time in Bitcoin's history, I have covered Bitcoin mining forever. It is always about how bad Bitcoin mining is for the world. Over the last 2 months, we've completely seen all of Google shift. Bitcoin mining can help reduce to 8% of global emissions. Why Bitcoin mining might actually be great for sustainability. Analyst reveals under the radar Bitcoin achievement that few industries can claim. They're now getting power credits and actually helping sustain power grids. They're taking landfill emissions and converting the methane gas into a real value. We can have ocean cleanup and very potentially start massive nonprofits that are completely funded by the production of Bitcoin mining and burning plastics. The utility for Bitcoin is endless. And if you do not see that, you are going to get left behind. Again, I'm looking at this from a macro perspective. We're talking over the next 2 to probably 5 years, maybe even 10. But it is beyond obvious with all of the uncertainty in these markets, with unemployment needing to rise, with the dollar more than likely going to break, and more than likely more injection of liquidity coming from the Federal Reserve to banks and not consumers, we're going to see a drop in the value of the dollar, and commodities are going to be that hedge against inflation. And Bitcoin is the greatest commodity to probably ever exist.
So that is absolutely massive. And if you don't believe what's coming, or you can't believe what's coming, well, I hate to break it to you guys, it is the inevitability. Bitcoin is the commodity of the future. Everyone and their mother is going to want to own it. All of these financial advisors, BlackRock, they're going to push it. The advisors are going to tell them to put 1%, 2%. And when you take 1% of even just the ETFs in general, right? 17 trillion, just take 1 to 2% of that. You're talking massive, massive price appreciation. So I really hope that this video got you guys excited, and make sure that you get subscribed, because tomorrow I really want to drop what I'm looking at right now. We're going to do some serious TA. If you're not following me over on Twitter, X, or my other socials, well, I was tweeting over there the whole time. I wasn't able to make these videos. So if you do want to get updates on that content, definitely check that out. And obviously, guys, if you do want to learn how to trade, make sure that you check out these tutorials popping up right here, right now. You guys are awesome. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.